you talking about that dichotomy between subject object through growing up as a heterosexual white Midwestern like frat guy, the idea of me being an object just never even kind of, it didn't really apply. I've been at a few gay clubs. Like that's the only time I've ever felt like that in a real way. And so I think a lot of men can't even fathom that understanding of like constantly being objectified. I speak to a lot of women about, right now I'm writing a essay about what is a creep, what is creepy. And one of the things is women are just like so sick of constantly being looked at as someone who you can just have sex with and that's the main purpose. And so I love that aspect of it because this is what I'm always looking for. This is what I'm always striving for with my work is figuring out what are like real kind of practical steps or even thought exercises that guys can go through to kind of understand what women are going through. Is there anything like that?
That's a great question, and I'll answer it on the fly.
Sure.
But so there's like a whole racket set up. Like it's a game that girls are born into. And oh my goodness, the rules of this game are that your primary value is your body, that you have to work on it. You have to constantly improve it. You're never going to be satisfied. I don't care what you look like. You're always going to have some level of body hatred and shame. Your worth is going to be something that comes from the outside world, from physical from validation from other human beings. So you're going to give your power away 100 times a day in that process. And then you're going to compete with other women for your own worth, because if women's bodies are their worth, then of course you're competing with other women for your own self-worth. You walk into a party and you know where you are in the pretty girl pecking order. You know in every room you're in how you're stacking up against other women, and men do this in a different way, right? It's a different value system. And then you're going to age out of it. And then you're going to have intergenerational conflict with younger women and older women around our bodies being our value. And at some point, you're going to be a middle-aged woman and be completely erased. And then there's this strange liberation that happens when you realize what the game is, because you're no longer valuable in it. And I think what's going through a lot of men's heads is something that, I talk a lot to men about the process here. When they encounter women, heterosexual men think of women as effable or not effable. It's a it's a two category sort, right? And it's a knee-jerk thing. So I think the very first thing would be to understand the great harm of being a sexual object, whether society lets us recognize that harm or not. And I think maybe putting yourselves in the shoes of women where you're not the sexual subject and how awful that would feel. I mean, I think a lot of manly men would be really upset at the freedoms that would immediately evaporate if they were a woman. Like they would not be happy with that. So a sensitization exercise, but also recognize the tapes that are playing in your head too about your assumption of validating women's bodies, because it's your job. You've been taught it's your job. Interrogate that. Interrogate the effable and not effable category you put every woman in, because you're absolutely erasing women. And it doesn't matter what else they do, right? That's going to be a base way in which you evaluate them. And I think, the third thing would be for all of us to recognize that this isn't just, talking about feelings and body image and that sort of thing, which that's important. I think it's trauma for some people, death through eating disorders. For some people, it's a serious issue, but it's a more fundamentally serious issue when it is totally normal to reduce half of your population to objects, because it's dehumanizing, and dehumanization is the first step in violence toward any group. So fundamentally what we're talking about here is gender-based violence.